desires, breathing in fire, money blaze, fueling my last days.
Hey everybody, we're back with Deep Images. I'm Henry Covert, your incredible host, sometimes incredible. And with me is CF Roberts, my awesome co-host, and the amazing Professor Francis Chu, and longtime panelist, original co-founding member, Bill Mulligan, who has picked a
Mm.
topic that we're doing, and he wants to tell you about it.
Oh, this is my wife just gave me a spoonful of, she's making a cake, chocolate mousse pie. This is good. And just
Ooh.
like a delicious chocolate mousse pie, some movies are just right there when you need them, when you're just like, life is, it's a Friday, the boss has been yanking your crank. If you teach high school, the kids have been brutal um, and then you got look forward to a 3-day weekend as we do. And nothing like a 3-day weekend to watch a few cool movies, especially movies that kind of take you back to a time when you could chill out and watch. Sometimes these are movies that you can multitask. You can do other things while you're watching it. It's not that you're ignoring it, it's that you've seen it so many times, you're not missing a thing. You're filling it in. Your brain is filling in those blanks. We call these comfort movies. And the one person I'm like, what movie is he going to pick? What possible movie brings Henry Covert comfort? I don't know. I'm prepared for anything from the Care Bears to Audition. I don't know. Somewhere in between these two extremes is this. So I'm very much looking forward to see what Henry has chosen for us.
I've kind of chosen the middle ground on my first one, I guess you could say. I mean, it's very, very extreme, but it's also very accessible to a certain audience. And I wanted to talk about it because it's timely. So yesterday, David Lynch died,
Yes.
and so by the time you watch this, he's been dead a couple few weeks. But so this is kind of news to me. I don't think it's the 24 hours since I found it out, and I have cried a little bit, which I did not expect at all. But he is my favorite director, so I'd like to talk about a comfort film. It started as a mini series, but it really is an 18-hour film that was broken into not almost arbitrary parts for television. Not he didn't structure it a certain way. He's just like, I got this amount of hours, so I'm gonna do cut this episode here. So it's Twin Peaks: The Return from 2017. For some people, I see it sort of this way. It's season three in the sense that it is not a reboot like everything else is. It's a continuation. It's a direct continuation of season two of Twin Peaks from 1990 and the film Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me from 1993. It's actually a lot of the stuff that's in that movie, embedded in that movie, are kind of expanded into a bigger cosmology. Some of the original cosmology is kind of reinterpreted or put aside. The thing about Twin Peaks is incredible is it's open to many interpretations, and that's also the bad thing about it because Twin Peaks fandom can be wonderful, but they can be some of the most annoying people on earth because they want to tell you all their theories, and it's more important to them telling you their theories than actually waiting to watch the next episode. So this series had an unprecedented non-disclosure agreement. No one in the world was allowed to talk about anything that was contained in any episodes. There's no plot synopsis. People knew the cast. He put out a list of 100 people. So yeah, it's all the cast, but no context except Kyle MacLachlan is the star, and he is back playing two characters he played in the old series. So if you haven't seen the whole old series, you won't know what I'm talking about. But shorthand, Dale Cooper is an FBI agent who investigated a murder of a young girl named Laura Palmer. Laura Palmer is kind of the anti-heroine of her own story in Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me. She gets into a lot of bad things, and she's also suffering abuse from her father and this demonic being called Bob. Firewalk with Me is the show Twin Peaks unfettered by ABC or whoever network that Twin Peaks this series was on. So David Lynch is like, I'm going to just do what I usually do, which is, use as much sex, violence, and esoteric intellectual jibber jabber as possible. So, and he does it smashingly. Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me, I believe, is one of the best horror movies ever made, really. Um, so this show has many facets because he does pick up all the characters, all the actors who are live played the same characters they played in the old series. There's no recasts. There are some sideways casts, like a person playing the twin brother of a character that they played in the old series because that character died. Um, the second character, who's really in a way, it just depends on where your sympathies lie or your interest. McLaughlin plays three distinct, discrete beings. Not only three for very, very brief periods. So in the beginning, it's really about Mr. C. So Mr. C is Dale Cooper's evil doppelganger. The real Dale Cooper has been trapped in his quest to find Laura's killer and stop Bob the demon. He gets trapped in something called the Red Room, which is like a waiting room to the Black Lodge, which is another dimension. There's also a White Lodge. And all this stuff is kind of laid out at the end of season two, way back when. A lot of it is coded specifically because Mark Frost, the writer, was a Sherlock Holmes scholar and a pulp aficionado. So a lot of the stuff that's encoded in season two, which David Lynch didn't really have anything to do with, is based in actual occult literature and alchemical literature, some fiction, some nonfiction, a lot of terms from people like Edward Buller Lytton and H.P. Lovecraft and what's her name? Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, all that kind of stuff, esoterica. So they didn't go quite that route in the new one, but they did retain the doppelganger idea. And they actually said in the old show, you will be in the lodge for 25 years. So that's almost an invitation to say, one day I'm going to pick this up. But through the years, Lynch said, I'm not going to do Twin Peaks ever again. So finally he agreed to do it, and Showtime gave him a contract. And then they wanted to do it their way, not his way. So he quit. And they decided to do it without him. And all of the cast went on a protest. And so they conceded. And they gave him unprecedented creative control over the show. He could do anything he wanted. He had final cut of everything. And one of his things was the non-disclosure agreement. So when you watch Twin Peaks in 2017, it was like watching TV when you were in the 70s or a soap opera in the 70s before there were soap opera digest. You didn't know what was going to happen next week. You had no clue what was going to happen next week. You just knew, oh, that might have my favorite character in it. Or maybe I have to wait 5 more episodes till I see Nadine again. Where's Nadine? Everybody's got their favorite characters from the original series. And all the living ones do eventually turn up. The only living actor of note that was alive that did not play in this was Piper Laurie. And I've heard various rumors. I don't know. There's some kind of blood. I don't know how bad it was between her and Lynch, but there's a reason he didn't recruit her back. And of course, she did play one of the most repulsively evil characters in the original series, but she was a hoot, But everyone else comes back, but it's mainly McLaughlin. So while Good Dale has been in the lodge for 25 years, his doppelganger has been turned out into the world. So his doppelganger his creation is tied to Bob, the demonic creature, the character. I don't know if, they do tell his origin in this series. So it's also tied to the lodges. What are they? You get into other dimensions. You get into the White Lodge. There's a lot of heavy science fiction and a lot of heavy horror in this. There's also a lot of absurdism and surrealism. There's a lot of CGI effects, but they're not meant to be realistic. People complained about them, and they're not meant to be realistic. They're meant to be like parlor tricks like Jean Cocteau used, where it's an effect, but how the hell they do it, And CGI
it worked well for the project, I think.
It did. It just made it faster for Lynch. He didn't abuse it. So this is like probably when Twin Peaks came out, it was the most radical mainstream network series ever and influenced dozens of television shows, novels, comic books, people's lifestyles, et cetera, et cetera. It had a hardcore cult. And, I didn't join it at the time it was airing, but I did see one episode while it was airing, and it blew my mind. I can never forgot it. My mom was watching it, and she's like, I'm going to give up on this show. When are they going to solve this damn mystery? And I was like, Mother, this is the most best directed thing that's ever been on television. I barely knew what a director did. I was like, wow. Season 3 or The Return. So it's like a work. It can stand on its own, but it helps if you've seen the old series. It really helps if you've seen the movie. One character they could not bring back from the movie was David Bowie. He was sick during the making of The Return. And his character, they wrote the script where his character is a key character to the whole thing. He was always meant to be a key character in Fire Walk with Me, but they never really got deep into it. So his character is an FBI agent who got lost in the lodges. And he saw these crazy things. He saw how these beings called the Woodmen, who are at this convenience store, which is like a portal to the lodges. A lot of lore here. And basically Philip Jeffries is the character. So David Bowie was too sick to do it, but he did give his permission to use the footage from Fire Walk with Me, not just the footage that was in the movie, but there's a bunch of deleted footage too that, with him and Philip Jeffries. So he could use all of that, but he said, "Do me a favor." To David Lynch's people, I don't know if they even talk to each other. He said, "Do me a favor. I hated the accent that I affected in the movie Fire Walk with Me. It's a Cajun character, and I sound like a British guy doing a redneck," which he did. But I thought it was funny. I mean, I didn't bother me at all. I thought it was very memorable. So he said, "Get a guy who can do a real accent to just kind of mimic that character." I can't remember the actor that did. So the actor mimicked. He dubbed the parts from Fire Walk with Me. It's no longer Bowie talking. It's that new actor playing that character's voice. Then when you find Philip Jeffries, how are you going to find him? Bowie's dead. He couldn't do it in time. He's just, he died while it was being made. Lynch could have done a lot of different things, and what he did was he had Philip Jeffries went so deep into these other dimensions and these dark places, the lodges, that he transmuted into another being. Physically, he's like a giant teapot. Don't laugh.
Yes, the giant teapot.
But he's talking with the voice that Bowie signed off on for Philip Jeffries. But see, since that character has been so deep into the lodge, he has these secrets that the evil doppelganger wants. So the whole time he's been on Earth, he's been playing Dale Cooper, but he does some disturbing things. Shortly after the old series wraps up, we don't find this out for quite a while, but he raped Audrey, who was his love interest initially in the old show. But Kyle MacLachlan said, "I don't want my character to date a woman who's a teenager. That's terrible." So they went ahead and, Lynch went ahead and was like, "Fuck you." I don't think it was a fuck you to the actress Sherilyn Fenn. She did take it that way at first. But so anyway, Mr. C off camera raped her, and they had a son named Richard. So Richard is now 25. And Richard is part demonic, and he's a horn too. So he's rich and he's he's probably one of the most loathsome characters you'll ever see. He's a total misogynist beast. He calls every woman all those 4-letter words that you're not supposed to call them all the time. So he is a character. And so Mr. C is on a journey. For 25 years, he's been amassing a fortune in Argentina. And he has a totally different persona. Once he did the rape and he left Twin Peaks, the town, permanently, people just assumed Dale either died or he got out of the lodge or whatever. Well, after he raped Audrey, they just assumed he split, And he did. He never went back to Twin Peaks. He amassed this fortune. He became a criminal mastermind. And he went by the name Mr. C as a nickname to distinguish him. And he grew his hair really long and black, like Dale's has always been, and wears a leather jacket. And really, he's just a cool fucking dude. But he is evil as hell. He is unremittingly vile. And he's very matter of fact about his agenda, which is power. He wants to get into the lodge and gain literal, like, power. Like, the power to change, transmute the world, with his energy. And he doesn't quite pull it off, but he's building towards it. And so his journey runs concurrently with Dale's. Dale does get out of the lodge, but unfortunately, when Dale gets out of the lodge, the idea is to switch him with Mr. C. And I forgot who did this, somebody in the lodge, but it's like a spell. So it kind of went awry. So instead of Mr. C being sucked back into the lodge, the evil Dale, the good Dale comes out, but there was already another doppelganger named Dougie Jones. And he basically is like a clone of Mr. C, except he's a dumb guy. He's like sweet dumb guy who his only fault is he likes to frequent, African American prostitutes, when he's married. I mean, but that's a common thing. But anyway, that was pretty daring for the show, considering they showed her completely naked, and then she went on to play Black Lightning as the daughter. But Dougie is kind of an idiot, and he's married to a young lady played by Naomi Watts, who really kind of comes to the Twin Peaks universe from her work with Lynch on Mulholland Drive. And she kind of almost steals the movie. Her character is just Janie E. She's like the most outspoken person you'll ever meet. She's like totally righteous. She like tells you immediately what she thinks about what you're doing wrong, and she's always correct. She doesn't take nothing from nobody. So by the time she finds out that Dougie has slept with this prostitute, Dougie is gone. Dougie has dissolved literally into nothingness. He was a being called a tulpa. So he was a clone created in a cult experiment by Mr. C. I forgot who assisted him in it. They do tell near the end of the movie, end of the show. So Dale is there, but unfortunately, Dale is messed up mentally. He's like a child. He's like a clean slate. So he's even dumber than Dougie was in reality. So his wife doesn't really think it's a big stretch. She just thinks he's acting a little weird, but she does find out he got with the prostitute. Which that's kind of what happened as soon as he came into this reality. He becomes Dougie and he's with one of Dougie's prostitutes. Janie E takes care of Dougie and tries to like teach him stuff. Like he's forgotten how to urinate. He's forgotten how to eat. He's forgotten every human function. Like he walks, though kind of in a daze. And he talks a little bit, though it's kind of nonsense. So over the course of the 18-hour movie, um, whenever we get back to Janie E, she's like kind of trying to humanize Dougie, which is good for us, the audience, because we want to see the real Dale get back in his right mind, because he's the fucking hero of the whole thing, right? So until that happens, though, really McLaughlin carries it as Mr. C, the villain. Um, and he has all these different agendas, and he hires a bunch of different people like hitmen and people like they're played by name people who had never been in Twin Peaks, like Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh play a pair of thugs. They're pretty funny. I've never seen Tim Roth play a character that stupid. It's pretty entertaining, and I love Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, if she shows up and just says hi in a movie, I'm there. But so that was very cool, and as far as Twin Peaks itself, there is a concurrent plot running through, and the two are going to dovetail toward the end. So the concurrent plot is again a consequence of the fact 25 years of our time have passed. People have died, people have aged, people have retired from acting. So I said earlier that Piper Laurie, they didn't let her go again. Actually, there's one actor, the key actor, who refused to do it. They offered him a lot of money. It was Michael Ontkeen.
Michael Onkeen.
He was always billed as the co-star after Kyle MacLachlan on the TV series. He's not in the Twin Peaks movie. He wouldn't do it. And not because he just wouldn't do Twin Peaks. He had literally retired from acting like years earlier, which I had no idea of. So what he did is he hired the amazing Robert Forster, who I think is one of the most underrated actors in the history of filmed materials. And he had a promising career in the mainstream. It didn't go that way. He did a lot of great cult turns. And then, Tarantino cast him in Jackie Brown. He got nominated for an Academy Award and he got a ton of work before he died. And he's briefly in Lynch's Mulholland Drive. So, but the thing that a lot of people didn't know, I did not know this, when that TV show Twin Peaks was started and he was trying to cast the character called Sheriff Harry S. Truman, yes, that's his name, that was going to be Kyle's buddy and cohort. Lynch cast Robert Forster as Harry S. Truman. But at the last minute, Robert Forster had to do a movie. So he couldn't do a TV series. So that's when they got Michael Onkeen. So Lynch said, because Lynch works intuitively, it's very magic. And he was, intuitively, then what do you do? Well, of course, you introduce Harry S. Truman's brother and you have him played by Robert Forster. And then he becomes the sheriff. And then off screen, Harry is kind of sick and kind of dying. He never dies, in the script, but he's barely talking on the phone to Frank. But they do have a couple of conversations. You only hear Frank's side. Frank Truman is the brother. That's Robert Forster. So Frank Truman, the new Truman sheriff, he's got a lot of the old people from the force, and then he's got kind of a anti-hero villain from the old series, a delinquent called Bobby Briggs. It was one of my favorite characters to watch. He's totally an asshole. And he had a wonderful, sweet, beautiful girlfriend, Shelley, played by Machen Amick. And Bobby has become a cop. Bobby is like totally changed over to the other side. And he's an incredibly likable character. And Dana Ashbrook has aged well. His hair's gone all
some
white.
wild switcheroos that some of these characters have made.
Yes. Like they finally resolved Nadine and Everett McGill's character. What's it? James Hurley?
Yeah.
No, not James Hurley. Big Ed.
Big Ed, yeah.
So Big Ed and Norma, played by Peggy Lipton from the original cast. She owned the diner. So they had a frustrated romance because he was in a terrible marriage with this woman called Nadine who wore an eye patch and who later, developed superhuman strength because why not? I mean, Lynch did it better in Twin Peaks than, the Spider-Man TV series did. It was more believable. But so she was kind of a weirdo. So what do you find in 25 years later? They're still married. And he still isn't with Norma. But Lynch and Frost, the writer, Mark Frost, co-creator, they give you the payoff. And that's kind of a diversion about 3/4 of the way through the season. and it's really beautiful. And Lynch does a lot of, Lynch is one of these directors. He does whatever the hell he wants. A lot of his shots, they're not this far out or artsy, but they're bordering on Tarkovsky level of slowness and long takes.
Yeah.
But he has this rumbling sound design under everything, which was already becoming prevalent in horror movies. But Lynch Lynch did it himself in Inland Empire. So here, 11 years later, Lynch designed all the sound and music. Then you reuse the music from Badalamenti from the original series. They reuse those themes, but they recontextualized them. Except for the opening theme, they didn't use any of that music in a context you would think they would. Like they would play Laura's theme in a totally incongruous scene, and you're like, "What's happening?" And then it would stop. You're like, "So what's that music you mean?" And this show makes you think about everything. And so finally, the sheriff and his guys find a portal to the White Lodge. They find some answers. And of course, this still is tied in with Laura's death. And it ties up some loose ends from the movie. And eventually, Mr. C makes his way to Twin Peaks. And he's going to try to go through that portal because he tried to go through another portal. And that's what he used his son Richard for. They intimate that that's almost why he impregnated Audrey, was just to have a son who is evil, that from afar he could manipulate in the Twin Peaks area. This guy didn't know he existed. He didn't know his father. So when they meet, the son still never finds out who he is, but they go to this peak together because there's these coordinates that he's been trying to track the whole thing. That's why Mr. C is killing people and doing all this crazy shit. And he goes there, and the idea is to open this other dimensional portal. Well, he wonders if it's a trap. He doesn't say that. He doesn't tell the audience, but if you're smart, you'll get it. He's a great actor, Tom McLaughlin. So he's like, can you go there, Richard? And the Richard actor's like, he doesn't know he's his dad. But he's like, whatever, man. He thinks the guy's cool because basically Mr. C is like what Richard's trying to be, like an evil badass. Except Mr. C is like actually an inhuman. And he does not give a fuck about anything. Whereas Richard really wants to just like push people around and be mean. And so he goes to the portal and he gets annihilated. And Mr. C says, "Thank you, my son." And basically it proved it was a trap. So he goes to Twin Peaks to get the other portal. By this time, Dale is cognizant, and he has a whole storyline with Dougie and Janie I will not get into. So eventually all of it convenes in Twin Peaks, the town. And there's like a final battle with Bob. There's a lot of things that they had to do that were CGI and that were dupes for people. Not only the David Bowie character, but Bob himself.
Frank Silva.
So he had died also. But they used his iconic look all through the show. And they actually used his face animated with CGI inside this crazy thing. I don't know how to describe it. This weird thing. And I want to say just real quick on the way to this of note is that episode 8 was called God of Light. And it got nominated for a lot of awards. And
oh yeah,
I've read many people, critics and fans, who said that in their opinion, learned or otherwise, that it was the best single hour of television ever made cinematically. And I'm partial to Lynch, so I would agree. But I mean, it may not be. But it certainly would vie for it. It's basically the origin of the whole cosmology, like origin of Bob, the origin of Bob's mother, the origin of the woodmen who hang out at the convenience store, what it all means, and young Laura's mother at a young age and her father at a young age, played by different actors. None of this is told to the audience. You've just got to kind of intimate it. And then it's tied in with the Trinity nuclear bomb test. Which has been fetishized by occultists for many years because Crowley said, once you get to this I forgot what he called them. There's these levels of achieving something in magic. One is like to transmute matter. So Crowley kind of predicted the atomic bomb because it literally transmutes matter. So a lot of people have believed that that was actually a magical working performed by Crowley I don't know if he was still alive. He might have been, or his people. To bring in these extra dimensional beings. So Frost and Lynch have like smushed all that real life stuff into this lore. Everybody uses the term lore now. I mean, I was shocked, but I've been using it since I was a kid. So maybe people will know what I'm talking about. It's just a lot of information, backstory about this world building in this universe. So it has kind of gratifying ending, but it ends the conflicts. But then he tacks on one last episode, and Dale has waking up in this other town. He's finally met Diane from the old series, who we never saw on camera, played by Laura Dern, who, along with Kyle, is one of Lynch's muses through his life. They wake up in this town, they have different names, and she leaves, and then he just begins to explore where he is. I forgot where he is. He's not in Twin Peaks.
Somewhere in Texas.
But the intimation is that this Dale now, since Mr. C was dissolved, is that this Dale kind of has all the qualities of both of them integrated into one being. And he's called Richard, the name of his son. But he doesn't remember, like, he remembers Twin Peaks. He remembers his journey, but no one remembers him. He doesn't know why he's Richard. And so he happens to find this woman named Carrie Page. And it's played by Cheryl Lee. Cheryl Lee, yes. And Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer is iconic. Everybody in the world knows her face in this prom picture they took before she died. It's really it's her story and Dale's. And, even though she died before the first episode, they brought her back as a lookalike cousin. And then eventually they brought her back as a doppelganger in the Red Room and the Black Lodge. And so Dale and Laura finally meet. He's trying to solve her murder, and they finally meet, and then they're both stuck in the lodge. So when the show starts, they're both stuck in the lodge, but then you don't really see Laura again after that. So I was thinking the show was going to be largely about her, or her equal with Dale, but no. So there's another thing. You just don't know what's going to happen, and you get disappointed or happy when you find out. And finally, Dale as Richard, and Laura as Carrie, who may be really the same person with a different memory, because he changed time. He changed time to where Laura was not killed. I don't know why he chose to do that, and they don't really explain it, but it's like some kind of need in him, like it's his heroic quest, but it's up to us to figure it out. Good luck. Him and Carrie go on a drive. And this is the longest drive I've ever seen two characters in a movie, dude. They talk some. Beautiful. It's very dark at night. And it's beyond existential. So by this time, Lynch has gone somewhere else. He's already had Dale go into the underworld, replicating the scenes at Orpheus by Jean Cocteau. That was in the previous episode. And he himself went with him because, Lynch plays a character, Gordon Cole, the FBI chief. So he's a much more major character himself than in the old series. So he gets to a point, though, as a hero where his journey ends and it's all about Dale, the resurrected Dale. And the ending is really ambiguous. He gets back to Twin Peaks. He goes to Laura's house. And Carrie's still insisting she's not Laura. But she sees or feels something. They look at the upstairs window and she screams. Now, if this happened in continuity and time was not fucked up, the idea would be that her mother, who is now possessed by this demonic being called, what's her name? Tell me, John.
Judy, aka Jaude.
Judy, yes. That's embedded in Bowie's dialogue in the movie. So The intimation is Judy is there. So there are a lot of twists. Like Laura's mother was always partially evil. That we didn't have any inkling. We knew she was psychic in the old series. We didn't know she had a being coming to her to possess her. So yeah, and they see the house and she screams. And Dale's like, "What year is this?" And so then you're like, well, wait a minute. So I just want to talk about this one because when it came out, 2017 was a really great year for me. It's probably the greatest year of my life. Everything good started happening, and I had a lot of good experiences making art and consuming art and having friends and being with people. And Twin Peaks brought a lot of people together on the internet. I would tag like dozens and dozens of people every week on Facebook, and we'd all watch it. None of us knew what the hell was going to happen. And it was an amazing experience. I would watch each episode over and over on show. I wanted to get my money's worth of Showtime. I bought Showtime just to see this, and I would watch each one over and over. And then when I bought the Blu-ray, I watched the series all the way through once. And then one night, I got extremely drunk. This was February 2018. My girlfriend had broken up with me, and I had been drawing again. And I kept getting increasingly drunk. I put on Twin Peaks: The Return. I decided to watch all 18 episodes before I passed out. Now, in those 15 hours, I drew 3 really good pictures. So the quality of each one suffered from the one previously as I got drunker. But I'd never drawn anything in my life under any influence of anything. So this was a new experience for me. I mean, my friends have all done it, but I was like, whoa, and it was cool. And I was grooving with the show, and then I fell asleep. I finished at episode 15. So, but what I achieved, I think, I've only watched it patches of it since then. I've watched every episode or the whole entirety at least 10 times, if not more. So that's a very long stretch. And why did I keep going back to it? Because it was kind of like something Bill said in a previous episode. It's a movie or experience that when you have it, you can't wait for it to be over so you can watch it again. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as Twin Peaks episode 1 and 2 were dropped, I would just immediately watch them again. And I just get excited. And all week I'd be trying to figure out what the hell's going on and talk to my friends. And I don't know. It was a magical time for me, and I think it was really a magical time for television. I don't know if I can overstate that enough, because not only did he change television completely with the original series, and then all these shows came out that were long form, adult, weird, crazy horror, and then he did the sequel and he outdid all the shows he influenced. He was even weirder and more avant-garde, but still really fucking entertaining. There are a lot of people who complained about some scenes, like, why is that guy sweeping the floor for 6 solid minutes in one camera shot? And I'm like, well, there's some dialogue around just get into it, man. Immerse yourself. Shut up. And go watch Stalker and leave me alone. Figure it out for yourself. And so here we are. And so I thought as soon as Lynch died and we were doing this subject, I thought really I would do a tribute to Lynch, just a real personal one, as a comfort piece. You can call it a series, a film, a work, and it has brought me a lot of comfort. And I could still return to it anytime, and then just get completely addicted to the whole thread. So, who here has seen The Return?
I have not, because I would probably, because I'm married and my wife and I like to watch things together. I'd
It's a
probably
big
need to
slog.
have her watch the entire thing from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I fear, I love my wife, but I don't think Twin Peaks is really her thing.
But you have seen the other works.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of saving it for like maybe summer
That's
when I'm
cool.
home from school and sadly she's got to keep on working, but that gives me a couple hours every day that I can watch my own
It's
stuff.
worth it to consume it that way, for
And
real.
now that he's gone, it's sort of like in that thing when a artist who I really like, a film artist or TV artist, dies. I realize this is it. The work that we have is all there is,
Hmm.
and I like to kind of dole things out. Like I haven't seen every movie that Mario Bava made, even though he's my favorite director,
Yeah, we've
because
discussed this.
I want to have one or two a year that I can say, here's my first dot dot dot. But that's
Mario Bob is a big favorite on this channel.
oh yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah.
big favorite. If you talk to me for more than 5 minutes, the topic will come up. But that's cool. I'm glad you like that, and I heard a lot of good things about.
It's
If
a
anyone can do Twin Peaks, it's Lynch.
Yeah, that's why it just had to happen. Showtime just had to cave in and stop being corporate assholes and be like, okay,
You know, you can't really imagine The Sopranos or Mad Men or Breaking Bad or any of these shows really existing if Twin Peaks or something like Twin Peaks hadn't come along. It
you're right.
Yeah.
revolutionized television.
It did. And mainstream television had imitated it a bit with kind of weird, surreal. They went more for the absurd humor part, but like Northern Exposure
Yeah,
is an obvious riff on Twin Peaks.
right, right. And what was it? Wild Palms. I mean,
Wild
there were other
Palms,
there
yes,
were things. I mean, there were things that were obviously very deliberately, but I think more in the sense that Twin Peaks, and you can't say was it successful. It lasted 2 seasons, but in the same way that the Batman TV show only lasted a couple seasons, its influence is greater than maybe its success was.
yeah,
And it
Yeah.
opened people's eyes that they don't necessarily have to do their own Twin Peaks, but the idea that they don't have to hold back. If they have a vision and maybe they say, well, is this something I can do on TV? They can say, well, wait a minute, we did Twin Peaks. Pretty much the sky's the limit here.
the thread goes through everything. And I mean,
Yeah.
people ask me what my favorite TV series of all time, and I tell them Twin Peaks. And then they get real disappointed when I tell them my second favorite one, which is Daredevil. And to me, there would be no Daredevil TV series without Twin Peaks, because who would do an adult superhero series in 1990? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a classic, and I recommend everyone watch it. You've watched it, Chuck. I remember you watched it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it now?
I think it's landmark masterpiece. Um, will probably continue to gain appreciation as it ages. One theory that I've kind of developed in the years
Literally open the door.
following is that Lynch, in a lot of respects, kind of pulled a massive troll job on the audience. And I say that with love, and I say that
You mean in
thinking
the
it was an
return?
interesting thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I
the
agree with
return.
that.
And the big thing that I think was the center of it, and it didn't hit me at the time. When you look at it, I mean, there were actors dropping like flies as that thing was being made.
Yeah,
Log Lady died during the making of the movie, or
yeah.
the show.
She was literally dying when she filmed her scene.
Yes,
Oh,
That's
literally
dedication.
filmed it while dying.
Yes.
Other people have died since then. Peggy Lipton, a lot of
Harry
folks.
Dean Stanton dropped off,
Harry Dean
but he was
Stanton.
90, but still.
Yeah, he was ancient even then.
Yeah, but he's great.
But just, and it hasn't gotten any easier. We've lost quite a few since then. It's kind of like, if there's anything you look at watching all the developments in that show, uh, just even the extraneous stuff. I mean, Big Ed and Norma and Nadine and whatnot, and their stories wrapping up, and all these people's stories wrapping up,
Mhm.
however they wrap up. Even if they wrap up like poor Audrey basically getting the trapdoor yanked right out from under her.
Yeah.
But it's like it's it's kind of an anti-nostalgia trip, really. It's
Yeah.
it just telling the entire fandom you want this back and you want this and this and this, but you can't have it that way. You
Yeah.
can't, you can't have it back.
No.
It's just kind of the end thing against nostalgia. You can't have it back. You
Right.
can't
That's
have
the
it the
thing is
way it
Lynch.
was.
Lynch is not like all these corporations who keep regurgitating with sequels and reboots, trying to use the same properties, the same intellectual properties, and bank on nostalgia or brand recognition. Lynch is actually finishing telling a story, and he's telling it real fast before the rest of the cast dies. It was a moment in time, lightning caught in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with everything you're saying. I think he was saying, daring the audience. Are you going to stick with me if I don't give you exactly what you want?
Yeah.
And
And just and so many characters have died since then, and now we've lost David Lynch. So, I mean, that literally is all you're gonna get.
yeah, that's the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was a tiny thing in his mind where him and Kyle MacLachlan might do something in that universe again, but I don't. Now, obviously, it's not. So,
Yeah.
so definitely, it's closing a door.
Yeah.
Mark Frost is with us, Kyle MacLachlan is with us, but Twin Peaks, rest in peace. David
Mhm.
Lynch, rest in peace. I love you. I wish you hadn't died. And you're like, my icon. And I'm sure I speak for a lot of people. David Lynch
yeah.
kind of changed the way a lot of people thought about him.
But he had a great life, and unlike a lot of great artists, I don't think Lynch had any reason to doubt that he was loved and was recognized and would be remembered. I mean, he got to see that in his lifetime, not somebody rediscovered long after they're gone.
He's a rare case of someone who stayed true to his vision that was very off the beaten track, but his sheer force of his will and the power of his work, he was able to like overcome all these hurdles by corporations and studios and gain all this recognition and accumulate enough wealth to then turn around and do other things. Like for instance, in the 1990s, Lynch, I covered this on the channel. Lynch funded the movie Naja. He paid for the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that until recently. I mean, not only did he make a little appearance, the executive producer, but he like paid for the whole movie. And he like
I
paid
suspect
Peter
there's
Fonda's salary to be in this movie.
Yeah, I suspect there's a few stories that are probably going to come out now that
Yeah.
he's gone of that kind of thing, because it seems like, and he's also one of those people, like, I've always talked about how when it's always fun when you discover a little known musical artist and you really like their early stuff and everything, and then at some point, they work their way up, maybe come up, join a band or something, and suddenly they're a superstar. Everybody loves them. It's like, I loved them when they were, and I remember seeing Eraserhead in college, and we were
Wow.
just like looking at each other like, what the
Was that when it
actual
came out?
hell? Well, what year did it come out? What
77?
year? Okay, so, well, this would have been 3 years after it came out.
Okay.
It had now become a cult movie, a midnight movie, and when I went off to college in St. Louis, they had theaters who actually showed midnight movies, and that was one of the really really popular ones. And thinking, what is this guy going to do? And then I remember a few years later, it's like, oh, the guy who did Eraserhead did the Elephant Man. Well, that's going to be crazy. And I went to see it, and it was a great movie, but it was a movie. It was a
It was a
movie
narrative.
like,
Yeah.
yes, well, a movie as if it were made by someone who's actually a Hollywood kind of director and is going to not just make weird, creepy movies for the rest of his life. He's not John Waters, although John Waters also kind of went in that direction too. But I think Lynch was really able to show he could do it all. And even the movies that a lot of people consider as his failures, like Dune. I love Dune. I love his Dune. I am not apologizing for
No
it.
problem.
So we're sorry to see him go, but that's a hell of a legacy to leave behind, and I'm sure he knew that, and I like that. I hate hearing about people who get discovered after they're dead and died thinking they were failures,
Yeah.
and they weren't, and so
That's one
so
good byproduct of this fast.
here's to you, David Lynch.
David Lynch, rest in peace. We're going to talk about
Yes,
Lynch some more on the channel soon in tribute.
that's
So,
right.
Francis, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, actually I had a question. When did Lynch get started? Is it the late 60s?
67, he started making short films. He was 20. He was the same
Oh,
age as Bo. A lot of cool people were born in 1947. Iggy
Hmm.
Pop, David Bowie, David Lynch. I could go on. But yeah.
would you
Hmm.
consider Twin Peaks as his masterpiece? I mean, that one piece that really blew everything
Yeah.
else away.
Yeah, I think the only movie of his, arguably Blue Velvet, but I think,
Mm.
well, arguably, but I do think the only movie of his that had the massive crossover, like worldwide, like Twin Peaks, was The Elephant Man. I mean,
Hmm.
everyone knows The Elephant Man. There's
Okay,
nothing like it. Huh?
Was Sharon that? Cher?
Oh
No,
no,
you're thinking of
you're
the other
thinking of
movie,
Mask.
Okay,
Mask. Mask
my
is an
bad.
incredible movie. I think it's
Underrated.
controversial
That's a
opinion.
wonderful
I think it's
movie.
Bogdanovich's best movie. I mean, cinephiles will not agree with me about that at all, but that's okay. I mean, I like Saint Jack. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's Bogdanovich's best movie. That was Mask. So yeah, Elephant Man, Mask, same period. And when I first saw those movies when they first came out, I was the target audience. I had total what they call now body dysmorphia. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated my shell of a human husk. I just wanted it to end or change or improve or whatever. So when I saw these kind of people that actually lived and endured way worse, uh, you know, I can't say that it cured me of it, but I felt less alone. So I got to say, I'll give that to David Lynch because I didn't see The Elephant Man in the theater, but I tried to. My mom wouldn't let me. So instead, in my junior high, I checked the book out by Frederick Treves, the real book about the real guy. And it's heavy stuff to read when you're like 12, 13, but I was already kind of going out there. And it was sad. I cried a lot about The Elephant Man. And I finally saw the movie a few years later. And it was just like I saw it with my then girlfriend, and she couldn't finish it.
Yeah, it's tough.
She had to leave. She had to leave the room.
I
So
saw it with a roommate who was one of the, straightest Midwestern, hold your emotions in check kind of guy. Good guy, smart guy, became a good doctor. Um, and when it was over, we couldn't speak for a bit. It hit him really hard. I had never seen him show that much emotion. It actually made me think a whole lot better of him. That was a good movie, but it definitely hit you in the feels.
yeah, and I think the companion piece. This is on my own theory. You might not agree. I think the straight story is the same kind of movie as Elephant Man. It's based on
Mm.
a true story. It's very Lynch, but it's more mainstream, and
Yeah.
it's extremely sad. The tragic
Yeah.
lead character, except it's more tragic because the lead actor was nominated for Oscar for it, and then he shot himself to death before.
Oh no.
Richard Farnsworth. Yeah, he didn't win the
Yeah,
Oscar.
yeah, that's right.
But damn
That's
it,
right.
if they're going to give it to Heath Ledger, they should have given it to Richard Farnsworth.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't want to encourage this kind of behavior though.
No. He was very old, and I think he was losing his sight. He had other health issues, but
Yeah,
that makes
he was dying when he made the movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really that movie. He reminded me of my father a lot of ways. Same generation, and at the time I saw Straight Story, started living with my father again, and he was like 80 then.
Hmm.
Um, So Farnsworth hit kind of close to home, and the whole thing with him and his brother, his young, well, in real life, I don't know if he's younger or is older, Harry Dean Stanton. It's incredible. I recommend that movie. It's a true story. A guy rode a tractor across a few states to
Yeah, it's
the old
insane.
brother. It's just, and it's Sissy Spacek is in it. And I want to say real quick for trivia for Lynch people, I may know this. Sissy Spacek helped start Lynch's career. She was
Yeah.
Jack Fisk's wife. Jack Fisk was a production designer who worked on Messiah of Evil, which we covered on here, which had brilliant production design. Not
Yeah.
2-3 years later, him and Sissy Spacek, they were married. She'd been in a bunch of exploitation movies, and then she did Carrie, and she had
Yeah.
money, so she helped Fisk and Lynch finish Eraserhead, and so she finally appeared in one of his movies. So that was really
Cool. Cool.
all right, everybody. I'll wrap this up and say, please like and subscribe. We need the help, we need the support, but not just because we need it for ourselves, but we also want to like express things to you guys, see what you guys think, and just maybe make you think, change the way you think about film or television in some way, get a different angle, better, worse, whatever, but just, different perspective. So let us know if we're succeeding or failing. Either way, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll keep it going. So rock on.
Thanks, guys.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.